Carl Gustav Jung did not merely develop a theory of personality. He described a transformational psycho-spiritual process that underlies authentic human growth, individuation. This term does not refer to becoming an individual in the social or independent sense. Individuation means becoming whole. It is the lifelong process by which a person integrates the conscious and unconscious aspects of the psyche, transcends the false self, the ego, and aligns with the deeper inner authority Jung called the self, the full expression of one's true nature. The unconscious is not just a chaotic realm of repressed material. Jung showed that it is structured and layered. It contains both the personal unconscious, forgotten memories, suppressed traits, psychological residues, and the collective unconscious, which is composed of archetypes, universal psychological patterns that appear in dreams, myths, and behaviors. Archetypes such as the shadow, the anima, the animus, and the wise old man are not inventions of the mind. They are inherent structures of the psyche. If not acknowledged, they operate unconsciously and shape perception, emotion, and behavior without awareness. Individuation requires conscious engagement with these forces, not to eliminate them, but to integrate them. Ego is essential. It enables stability, orientation, and a sense of identity. But when the ego assumes it is the central authority of the psyche, psychological imbalance emerges. Jung distinguished between the ego and the self. The self is the organizing center of the entire psyche, encompassing both the conscious and unconscious dimensions. It cannot be controlled or designed by the ego, but it can be listened to and followed. Individuation is not about ego empowerment. It is about ego realignment. The goal is not perfection, but integration. The shift from ego-centeredness to self-centeredness is a reorientation of consciousness toward a deeper source of guidance. Jung introduced the idea of psychic energy, which, like physical energy, seeks balance. The psyche compensates for conscious attitudes by producing unconscious responses through dreams, symptoms, and projections. What is not integrated will inevitably be projected outward. The enemy, the lover, the authority figure, these often reflect aspects of ourselves we refuse to face. Individuation means taking back those projections and understanding them as mirrors of our internal fragmentation. One of the first real confrontations in this process is with the shadow, the rejected, disowned, or morally uncomfortable parts of the personality. The shadow is not evil. It is simply what the ego has denied. When acknowledged, it becomes a source of authenticity, strength, and creativity. If ignored, it leaks into life through reactive behavior, compulsions, and blind judgment of others. Jung insisted that no one becomes whole without facing their own darkness. The darkness must be made conscious if it is to be transformed. Beyond the shadow lies the integration of the inner opposite. For men, this is the anima, the internal feminine. For women, the animus, the internal masculine. These are not gender identities but symbolic functions of psyche. The anima represents feeling, receptivity, and connection to the unconscious. The animus represents reason, clarity, and will. Until these inner counterparts are integrated, they tend to be projected onto partners or idealized figures. This creates dependency, confusion, or repeated emotional patterns. Integration of these aspects brings emotional maturity and internal stability. The self is not a goal to be achieved. It is a regulating principle that gradually emerges as the ego relinquishes its central position. The process unfolds over time, often catalyzed by crisis, symbolic dreams, or meaningful coincidences. There is no universal roadmap. Jung believed that the self communicates through symbols and synchronistic events. experiences that feel charged with meaning and direction. Modern neuroscience supports aspects of this through findings on neuroplasticity, the integration of left and right brain hemispheres, and coherence between brain and heart activity. In spiritual traditions, this process resembles alignment with the subtle or energetic body, sometimes referred to as Atman, or the inner witness. The individuation journey is not just psychological. It is existential, energetic, and even metaphysical. Jung emphasized that humans possess an innate religious function, not in the dogmatic sense, but as a deep psychological need for meaning, coherence, and connection to something beyond the personal ego. As individuation progresses, the inner compass becomes more reliable than external validation. Life begins to feel less reactive and more intentional. The person does not escape difficulty, but gains the capacity to meet it with inner strength, integration, and clarity of purpose. You know you are on the path of individuation when you begin to recognize your projections, feel the tension between inner opposites, and choose authenticity over conformity. You no longer seek perfection or approval. You seek alignment. Life becomes less about controlling outcomes and more about deepening awareness. Individuation is not a luxury. In a world saturated with noise, distraction, and fragmentation, the return to an inner center is essential. Without this process, the personality remains divided, reactive, and externally defined. Individuation is not easy, but it is the only path toward psychological integrity, spiritual depth, and meaningful existence. It is the journey through which a person stops being a product of the world and becomes a conscious presence within it. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channel.